Here we are again, Tishah B'Av, Tovshin Pehei. And the truth is, we really thought last year, when we stood in this very place, we were hoping it was the last Tishah B'Av. We were hoping that we could take our kinnis, we could put it into Shemus, don't need it anymore. Next year we won't have to sit on the floor. Next year we won't have to hear about the tzoros. Next year we'll be in the Beis HaMikdash. We will be calling each other, everyone will be wishing each other Freilich and Tishah B'Av. But yet, here we are, another Tishah B'Av, sitting on the floor again, listening to the horrifying words of Eicha. You read the words of the kinnis, it's frightening. The tzoros that we saw this year, the pain, the tsar, it's difficult to miss. It was in front of our eyes. How many times did we switch on the news? Another soldier, another tragedy, another family changed forever. One after the other. We almost become insensitive. It's too much for us to feel the emotion after each one. Just across the street from me, across the street from my house, there was a young child that was knocked over by a car. And I spoke to the Zakah member, the member of Zakah that was there at the time. And there were people around, there were children around. We watched it from our marpesed, our porch. We didn't see the accident, but we could see afterwards people were gathering together, and the Zakah member Yossi, who I spoke to afterwards, said, "Where's the mother? Where's the mother? Where's the mother?" Until somebody whispered into Yossi's ear, "The child doesn't have a mother. The child's mother died about a year ago in childbirth, as she was trying to give birth to twins, and those twins also died." Can you imagine a father had to deal with the tragedy of losing his wife, his two children, twins unborn, and then almost in front of his eyes, he watches his child leave this world, the tzoros that we see on a daily basis. Chazal tell us in the Gemara that Rabbi Gamliel lived in a certain area, and in that area there was a woman who lost her child, and that woman every night would wail and would cry because she lost her child, and Rabbi Gamliel would also cry. And they asked Rabbi Gamliel, "Why are you crying?" And he said, "You know why? Of course I'm crying for the pain of this woman, how difficult it is to lose a child, Rahman al-Itzlan, we should never know, but I understand," said Rabbi Gamliel, "that every tsar, every bit of pain that Klal Yisrael experience, and Rabbi Isa we're experiencing so much, has one root, has one source. And that is today, the day of Tisha B'Av." When they famously came to Rav Moshe and they said, "Rebbe, let's make a day to remember what happened, the tragedy of the Holocaust, 6 million Jews. Surely we need a day to remember what happened, to put our thoughts together on that day once a year." And Rav Moshe said, "You're absolutely right, we need such a day. But we have one. And that day is today, the day of Tisha B'Av. Because today is the root of all sorrows. If ever there's a tzara in the world, if ever there's a challenge, if ever there's pain, if you want to know where the root is, where's the source is today. Which means, if you want to try and rectify it, if we want to make sure that this coming year, we don't see the tsaras, we don't know of the tsaras, there are no tsaras, and we won't have to sit here next year on Tishah B'Av once again, then we have to go to the source. The Yismach Moshe Manzada Tzadikim asked the very famous question. Yirmiyahu Hanavi, when he prophesied, when he saw the words, when he said over the words of Eicha, it was a prophecy, it was Nevuah. In order to receive Nevuah, in order to get prophecy, you have to be in a state of Simcha. You have to be happy. Asks the Yismach Moshe, how? How, when he said the words, those terrible words, the tragedy, the words that he prophesied were tragic beyond belief. If you read the words of Eicha, it's scary. How was he able to be besimcha when he was able to see every single little bit of tzara that Klal Yisrael would go throughout history? And he had to be in a state of simcha in order to get the nevuah, in order to say it. So how? How is it possible? How can a human being do that? Rav Schwab Zatzal, in his beautiful sefer on Tefillah, brings the Gemara in Megillah, where the Gemara tells us that the Malachim wanted to sing Shira. At the time of Kriyas Yamsuf, the Malachim said, let's sing Shira. The Egyptians, the Mitzrayim, who have caused tsaros for Klal Yisrael for hundreds of years, are drowning. Now is our opportunity to sing Shira to the Rabbeinu Shalom. Let's do it. Chazal tell us, the Gemara in Megillah, Hashem said, absolutely not. No way. Why? My siyadi, my creations, I created these goyim also. I created these enemies, I created these Egyptians. They're drowning. Now is not the time to sing Shira. Asks Rav Schwab, that's the case. So how did Klal Yisrael sing Shira? Oz Yoshem Moshe. Klal Yisrael got up and they sang Shira. If the Malachim weren't allowed, then why were the Jewish people allowed to sing Shira? And the Schwab brings a Medrash in Medrash Rabbah, in Bereshis Rabbah, that Malachim can only do one job. They can't multitask. They can only do one thing. And therefore for them to sing Shira at this time was the wrong thing to do. But a human being, a Yid, is able to multitask. He can think of two things at the same time. And therefore, yes, the Jewish people there were able to sense, to feel the tragic end of the Egyptians, but at the same time, the realization of the rejoicement of the simcha of there being a redemption that they have been waiting for. Angels, malachim, can simply not do this. The Chassam Sofer writes, that's the reason why we start Shemoneh Esrei. Hashem svosai tiftach, open my mouth. Why? Says the Heilige Chassam Sofer, because when we start Shemoneh Esrei, we're about to praise the Rabbeinu Shalom. But straight after praising the Rabbeinu Shalom, what do? We ask for everything we need. And boy, oh boy, we need a lot of things. Klal Yisrael needs a lot. And we have so much that we desperately need and we desperately want. How do we do both? How do we sing praises to the Rabbeinu Shalom, but yet also at the same time ask for all the things that we need and recognize that which we are missing? Says the Chassam Sofer, that's why we start Shemoneh Esrei. Hashem svasai tiftach, open my mouth to both of these. And perhaps Yirmiyahu Hanavi had the same conflicted emotion inside him. He must have been in a state of simcha, because otherwise he would never have had a nevuah, prophecy. But also, he was tragically thinking about the future of Klal Yisrael. And he foresaw everything that we would go through over the history. You know why? Because a Yid understands that there's a reason for everything. We may not understand that reason. We may not get the reason. We may never understand it. But ultimately, a Yid is the koyach to understand that there's a Rabbeinu Shalom. and He's running the show. And yes, we may be in a lot of pain, and we may see so much pain around us in the local community and around the world. We see it, we sense it, we know it. But ultimately, a Yid knows, and this is what Yirmiyahu Hanavi planted within every single one of us, this knowledge, this understanding that yes, there are going to be challenges, there are hard times, there are hardships, there are tsuras and Klal Yisrael, some of which we don't understand. But yet, when a person understands that there's a Melech Malchei Amlochim, there's a Rabbeinu Shel Olam, he could be in a state of simcha. So what are we mourning today? What are we mourning? A Beis HaMikdash that we never saw. The avodah that we don't understand. All of these things, what does the Rabbeinu Shel Olam want from us today? To sit on the floor and to mourn the Beis HaMikdash that we have no idea what it means to live with. We don't understand, Rabbeinu Shel Olam, what do you want from us? You want us to mourn the Beis HaMikdash? Show it to us. Hey, give us a little bit of an experience of what it means to live with the avodah, with the kahanim, with the ketores, with the karbanos. We don't get it. So what are we meant to do today? What is the avodah of today? And how is a person meant to reach that simcha of the understanding of what we're really missing? So the truth is, last year, I have to say, we thought it was going to be a very meaningful Tishah B'Av. It was just after, not just after, but it was after October 7th, it was after what we saw, Simchas Torah. And we all have in our minds the images of innocent people being dragged away on motorcycles, on terrorists on the back of trucks, with guns poised. We've all seen the images. Last year, after Simchas Torah, we understood, oi, what a Tishah B'Av. We've had a Tishah B'Av every single day since October 7th, since Simchas Torah. But somehow, perhaps this year carries even more weight. We had a 12-day war in Israel. A 12-day war in Eretz Yisrael. And I don't know if anybody was there at the time. I was there with my family. And I have to tell you, we were scared. Iran was this organization, this movement, this country that everyone was scared of. Everyone was petrified. Who knew what they could do? Who knew how far it could go? And when there's a siren, I have to tell you, when there's a siren in the middle of the night, of course, Baruch Hashem, we live in Yerushalayim, it's easier, we know, Baruch Hashem, we have a protection. Come out, no, nothing happened in Yerushalayim ever, but still, no one knew the unknown. And when we have a bomb room in our house. Some people have to go drag their kids downstairs, out the building sometimes, to the next building. Especially when in this war they started this idea of the phones, which was a gewaltige Zach be'etzem. Their phones all of a sudden had this like shrieking. And you wake up in the middle of the night, it wasn't just the siren on the outside, it was the shrieking before on the phone. What was going to happen now? What were they sending now? Who knows? Kids panic, parents panic. The kids that have trauma for months and months afterwards, just hearing any noise that resembles a siren. Imagine for a moment a 6-year-old child that sees the panic in his parents' eyes, brothers and sisters, and the child at 6 years old says, you know something? When I grow up, I'm going to change everything. I'm going to fix the whole situation. So when this child reaches the age of 10, it gets up on the roof and it finds one of the wires that are attached to the siren. And with a huge pair of scissors, this 10-year-old mischievous child climbs up, gets one of the wires, and carefully cuts one of the wires. So no longer will that siren sound. And the child looks at himself and says, look what I did! I saved the situation! Now there's no more sirens. Now there's no more trauma. Now there's no more panic. Now there's no more drama in the house because there are no more sirens. Every single one of us understand that would be such a foolish thing to do. Because at the end of the day, it's not the siren that brings the ballistic missile, but rather it's the siren that protects us. And therefore it alerts us to protect ourselves so that we can save ourselves. Yes, of course it's frightening. Yes, of course it's uncomfortable. Yes, of course it's annoying. We didn't sleep for days, through the night. And every so often there was another one. You go back to sleep thinking, oh, how many hours am I going to sleep tonight? Of course it's frightening. It's uncomfortable. But ultimately you recognize that that siren is what saves us. It protects us. That's Golus. That is Golus. And that's where we're holding right now. Every bit of pain that Klal Yisrael have gone through and is going through is a challenge, it's difficult, it's painful, it's really, really hurting us. But there's a purpose to it. There's a purpose to that pain. The purpose to the pain is ultimately not to annoy us, not to hurt us, but rather to wake us up. And it's there really to shake us and bring us closer to the Rabbeinu Shalom. We know, especially now, what could have happened at the beginning of that war. In fact, down the street from me, they had brought and plugged in huge freezer trucks. These freezer trucks were there for bodies. For those that saw them and knew, they had expected to have piles and piles of bodies that they would have to put into those freezer trucks. That's what they were expecting. That was what was going to happen. But the miracles that we saw, that we witnessed, were not just saving us. Those miracles were the hug. Those were the hug that the Rabbeinu Shalom was giving us. It wasn't just a war that we experienced. It was actually a message. It was Hashem telling us, I love you. I'm shaking you. I'm trying to wake you up. I'm sending you a message. But ultimately, I love you and I'm calling you home. And today is the day that we try to recognize that. That we sit on the floor and we recognize that we don't have the structure of the Beis HaMikdash. But the Rabbeinu Shalom is calling us home. And he's sending us these messages that are shaking us up to protect us, to hug us, to pull us closer. Rav Dessler Zatzal was forced to leave his family and his home. He moved to England, famously set up one of the seminaries, the famous Gateshead Seminary. My grandmother was one of the first years of Rav Dessler's seminary. And it was literally the years before the Holocaust. And it was a time of chaos, destruction, time of pain, devastation. And from England, Rav Dessler wrote letters, personal letters to his family members, with the longing to see them, to get back together with them. And eventually it was compiled into sefer nowadays called Michtav Meliyahu, beautiful letters from Rav Dessler. In one of the letters to his dear son, Rav Nachum Zev Dessler, this was 1941, Rav Dessler shares an insight with terrifying reminders. He says like this: today, I believe, because people have stopped learning musar, Hashem has transformed the entire world and our lives into a terrifying musar sefer. 80 years later, you read that letter, and Rav Dessler's words are ringing loudly in our ears. They're speaking directly to our world. We're living today inside a musar sefer. Barely a week goes by without more news that makes us tremble, if not in Eretz Yisrael, elsewhere, amongst our community, Rahman al-Itzlan, amongst others. Every day, as I said before, how tragic it is. Another soldier that's fallen. Do you know what that means? One soldier, one life, one neshama. He has a wife. He has children. He has parents. People's lives have been transformed, completely turned around. And we flick the news. Okay, another soldier, Nebuch. And we move on. The pain, the tsar, what it means to lose a child, a parent, a sibling, a spouse. Another page in the musar sefer. Another page in that musar sefer of life that we're living through at this moment of time. But Rav Dessler did not stop right there. Rav Dessler writes in the very same letter, and he turns to the question that haunts every single one of us. What's the purpose? What do we need all this suffering for? What are we gaining from it? What is Hashem trying to teach us? And Rav Dessler quotes a Chazal. Chazal tell us, we're all familiar with this idea of Chevlei Mashiach, the birth pangs of Mashiach, associated with labor pains that are so painful, but are just before and precede a brand new life. So the Chevlei Mashiach is the pain that we have to go through right before the new life, the life with Mashiach, the life with the Shekhinah. Says Rav Dessler, there's a much deeper explanation than just a little bit of pain that we're discussing. But Chevlei doesn't only mean labor pains, but it's related to the word Chevel. Chevel is a rope. Before Mashiach comes, the Rabbeinu Shalom sends these pains, not chas v'sholom to give us suffering. He loves us. He cares for us more than anything we can imagine. But rather, Hashem does it to send us a rope, a lifeline, an opportunity to tie ourselves with Him, an opportunity to hold on tight, tighter than ever before, because we need it now desperately. And that's what we're going through right now. These days are not meant to be days of pain. And the pain that we go through in these days is not meant to push us away, but rather to bring us in so much closer. If we look at the messages, if we take the pain to be that rope that the Rabbeinu Shalom is vigorously shaking, it's for a purpose. The purpose is to get closer to the Rabbeinu Shalom, to tie ourselves to Hashem. And that's what we have to recognize. We don't have a Beis HaMikdash. We don't understand what it means to have a Beis HaMikdash. We never lived in a life. We don't know anyone that even did live in a life with a Beis HaMikdash. We're a Tinnik Shenishba. We've been kidnapped as a child. We don't know better. What do you want from us, Rabbeinu Shalom? So the answer has to be that today we're not meant to be mourning the physical structure that we lost, because we don't know what that is. We don't remember it, we don't understand it, it doesn't mean that much to us. But rather what we're meant to be mourning is what the Beis HaMikdash represented, and that was a connection to the Shekhinah. Our personal connection to the Shekhinah is something that everyone has an obligation. You know, when it comes to the 3 weeks, comes to the 9 days, there are halachas that are quote unquote annoying. People don't like them, they're not comfortable, can't listen to music, can't have a haircut, weddings. And it gets to the 9 days, even more, intensifies with the idea of not even having meat. Crazy in South Africa, what are you eating if there's no meat? People told me that. How are you going to South Africa in the 9 days? What are you, crazy? It's for the meat. You can't even eat meat. So you don't worry. Klal Yisrael have figured it out. We have siyumim. We can have a cappella music. We can figure out a mahalach to get out of every halacha, so we basically don't even feel the 3 weeks. We don't feel the 9 days, and then we're great. Then we walk into Tishah B'Av, and Hashem says, now mourn the Beis HaMikdash. There's no getting out of it. There's no heta. Sorry guys, there's nothing we could do to get out of today. There's no heta that I can give you unless chas v'sholom rachman litzlan, a person is sick. Yes, you have to fast. And even if you're not fasting because you have a heta not to, you have to sit on the floor and you have to mourn. It's for every single one of us. And if the Rabbeinu Shalom is commanding us to do it, then that means that we can do it. That means we have the ability within us to do it. And perhaps the structure is too much for us to be able to mourn because we don't get that. It doesn't mean much to us. But what does mean a lot is what the Beis HaMikdash represented. You know, just think for a minute, when a person on Shabbos Kodesh, he does something called boire. He separates. He's got a salad, got cucumbers and tomatoes, and he doesn't like tomatoes, so he takes it out. And the guy says to him, hey, Shabbos, boire, you're not allowed to do that. So what does he do? Either he'll come along and say, well, I think it's okay, I once had a heta, it's mutter, I'll come up with a mahalach, or he'll say, oh, really? It's not allowed? Oh, okay, fine. And he'll move on. You know what you did when the Beis HaMikdash was here? He had to go get an animal, bring it up to the Beis HaMikdash, and bring a korban chatos. It cost a lot of money, took a lot of effort, but there was a connection. We're missing today that connection. We're missing that relationship with the Rabbeinu Shalom that we had, that we no longer have because we're so far. That's what we're mourning today. Today is a day of mourning our personal churban within every single one of us. First, halacha kamat, Siman Aleph Orach Chaim in Shulchan Aruch. That tells us how to live like a Jew. The Shulchan Aruch says, every Yiras Shamayim, if you are fearing heaven, then every day you're actually meant to be thinking about the fact that we don't have a Beis HaMikdash. So the Chadush Harim, the Ger Rebbe, once asked a question, and what if you're not a Yiras Shamayim? What if you don't fear heaven? So then I don't have to? So the Ger Rebbe said, if you don't fear Shamayim, then go and mourn your own personal destruction of your relationship that you have. That, Rabbi Isai, is our avodah today on Tishah B'Av. Our avodah today on Tishah B'Av is the realization of what we're missing, what we don't have in our personal relationship with the Rabbeinu Shalom. My grandfather was a soldier in the Israeli army. After escaping Europe, he made it to Israel, and he worked on the planes that they used to fly. And he once told me that when they opened up the Kaisel for the very first time, it was a huge simcha. People were running to the Kaisel. This was the first time in many years. They were able to go to the Kaisel HaMaravi, the last remaining bricks and stones that we had from the Beis HaMikdash. This is the Western Wall. This is the wall that Klal Yisrael have relied on, have seen. This is our hope for the future. And people were running in and they were kissing it and embracing it and crying and crying and crying. And there were two soldiers outside the entrance of the old city. And these two soldiers, completely not religious, one of them started crying. And the other one turned to him and says, "Why are you crying? You don't know why these people are crying. You don't understand this. You didn't grow up this way. Why are you crying?" He said, "That's why I'm crying. Because they're going inside and they seem to have some kind of connection. I don't have that connection. I'm missing it. And I'm crying for myself that I don't have that love, that connection." Rabbi say, this is Tishah B'Av. Tishah B'Av is not a day that we need to sit on the floor and think about what it was like with the Beis HaMikdash. Halavai, we could do that. And if you can, great, do it. But like most of us, well, I speak for myself, that's difficult. But perhaps what we can do is for maybe 30 seconds, a minute if you can close your eyes and you can think about your personal relationship with the Rabbeinu Shalom and how much it's missing and how distant we are from where we're meant to be. You know, there were 45 kinnis. 45 kinnis that are said over Tishah B'Av. 45 kinnis is the gematria Odom, Aleph, Daled, Mem, is 45. Why? Because one of the things that we're mourning today is a tzuras ha'odom. How we have to realize who we are. We have to realize what we can get to and how much we can accomplish. Rav Mendele was the son, the Heilige Sfasemes, a tzaddik, Yisoid Olam. Him and his Hasidim were taken to one of the death camps in Poland, and he was in one of the barracks one night, and he says to his Hasidim, to his followers, "Guys, I don't know how much longer we're going to live, and it could be at some point they're going to take us to the gas chambers. Let's learn the sugya of dying al kiddush Hashem, dying for the sake of Hashem. We have no choice. It could be that's where we'll end up. Let's at least learn about it. Let's at least understand it. Let's live it." So he sat night after night. They came back from a really hard day of work, physical labor. They came back, and Rav Mendele sat with his Hasidim, and he would give like a shir in what it means to be Mekadosh Shem Shamayim, to die al Kiddush Hashem. So much so that the Olam got so into it, you could almost say they were excited to die. They were ready. They were in the mode. They were ready to give up their lives for the Rabbeinu Shalom. And then the day came. They were rounded up. That barrack was taken, was emptied. And they took them all to the entrance. Well, everyone knew that was the gas chambers. And everyone knew where they were headed. But this group was different to everyone else. This group wasn't like everyone else. This group was ready. They were ready to die al Kiddush Hashem. And you could almost see the smiles on their faces. And as they reached the entrance of the gas chambers, all of a sudden, someone started humming. And then it broke out into a song. And a song brought out into a dance. They started dancing in the entrance of the gas chamber. The Nazis in Shimon didn't know what to do. They never saw this before. A group of Jews dancing before they died. How do you stop them? They tried this way, they tried that way. They couldn't stop them. They were in another world. The Talmidim, the Hasidim of Rav Mendel were so into it. No, they didn't hear anything. They were so involved in dying al Kiddush Hashem b'simcha. If Hashem wants me to die, I'll do it b'simcha. They were dancing and dancing. It was like Simchas Torah. The Nazis didn't know what to do. So they came up with an idea. They went to the hospital of one of the camps where they were. And there was from time to time a baby that was born to a mother that tried to hide the fact that she was pregnant. They used to do tests on these babies, whatever. Gruesome, horrible things. They picked up this baby, a Jewish Yiddish baby, and they threw the baby in the middle of the circle. And all of a sudden, the Hasidim stopped. The dancing stopped, the singing stopped. They weren't going to crush, they weren't going to step on a Yiddish baby. Rav Mendele picks up this baby, and he speaks to those around him, his Hasidim, and he says the following: Rabbi Say, how does the sun know that it's doing a good job? How does the sun know it's doing a good job? The answer is, when people are walking on the street and they're squinting, they can barely see, they can't look, they need sunglasses, then the sun knows I'm doing a good job. Nobody can look at me. I'm doing a good job. Said Rav Mendele, every single one of us have a tselem Elokim. We were created with the image of the Rabbeinu Shalom with us. How do we know? The Chaim HaKadosh says now it's only Yidden. It was originally Goyim, but now it's basically Yidden that have this tselem Elokim. How do we know if we're doing a good job? The answer is if the Goyim cannot bear to look at us in the face. They can't stand looking at the face of a Jew. Then we know we're doing a good job. Because that tselem Elokim is shining out. And perhaps that's something we have to think about today. The tselem Elokim that the Rabbeinu Shalom implanted in every single one of us. As the Tanya says in the beginning of Perek Aleph, every single one of us have a chelik of the Rabbeinu Shalom, a piece of the neshama of the Rabbeinu Shalom inside him. It's shining out. And we have to recognize that, we have to remember that, we have to live that. And sometimes it gets a little bit dim when we don't recognize what we could do, our mitzvahs, our Torah, our chesed, our tefillahs. Our Torah is so greatly appreciated. It's loved by the Rabbeinu Shalom. That tselem Elokim is waiting to shine again as it was. And that's something we're missing. It's being dimmed. It's dimmed by our aveiros. It's dimmed by our disconnect. It's dimmed with our own self-image, of our low self-esteem, that we simply cannot understand how the Rabbeinu Shalom cares if I say a bracha with a kavana, or I put on tzitzis, or I wear tefillin, or I daven another tefillah, or I say a kapitel tehillim, or I wash negelvasa, or I bench, or I do a chesed for another Jew. You think the Rabbeinu Shalom really cares? And the answer is yes. He waits for it. The messages that we've seen over the last year and beyond are messages from the Rabbeinu Shalom. Wake up! I'm shaking the world. Where are you? We also have to mention that many of the kinnis, and it's even in Eicha as well, the very first word, this word Eicha, where's the first time this word Eicha exists? Where's the first time that it's found? Parshas Bereshis, when the Rabbeinu Shalom says to Adam Arishan, Ayeka, where are you? Of course, Rashi says the Rabbeinu Shalom knew where Adam Arishan was. He tried to hide after he did the first Aveira. Says Rashi, it was just a way of conversation, just to start the flow going. Zug the Heilige Balatanya, the words Eicha that we read just now, the words Eicha that we say so often during Kinnis, tomorrow also, come from the very first time that the Rabbeinu Shalom said to Adam Arishan, and inside every single one of us, we have a chalik of the neshama of Adam Arishan also, that the Rabbeinu Shalom says to every one of us, Ayeka, where are you? Where's my beloved Jew? Where are you? When I wanted you to daven with a minyan, when I wanted you to daven with kavana, when I wanted you to do a chesed, when I wanted you to wash negelwasser and the tilis daim and bench and all the things, where are you in the relationship? That's the question we have to ask ourselves today on Tishah B'Av. Ayeka, where are we in our relationship with the Rabbeinu Shalom? Because that's what Eicha really is. Eicha is Ayeka. Where are you? We've fallen so far. We're so distant. The Rabbeinu Shalom has held that rope, and he wants us to grab hold of the rope of all the tzoros, the messages, the nissim that we saw in the world. Look at the world and the nissim, the miracles that we see on a daily basis. Look at your own body and see the miracles. Look at the world at large, you'll see miracle after miracle. Grab hold of that rope. And the Rabbeinu Shalom says, don't just grab hold of it, tie it to me tight. Get closer and closer. Ayeka, where are you? Where have you fallen? How far have you gone? The Beis HaMikdash gave us an opportunity to get close to the Rabbeinu Shalom, and we could almost see Hashem Kaviyachol. You could see the Getoris, you could smell it. It was amazing. We don't have that. Rabbeinu Shalom, we want the Karbonos, we want the structure, we want the Kehanim, we want the Avodah. Why? Because we want that relationship back with you. We want to get close to you. And if we're close to Rabbeinu Shalom, everything's possible. He's waiting for us. He wants us to come home. The Beis HaMikdash is our home. Yerushalayim is our mokoim. Yes, sometimes we have to live in Chutz La'aretz for whatever reason. But everyone's meant to be longing to get back to Eretz Yisrael, to Yerushalayim. It's the Beis HaMikdash, that's our house. That's the Shechina. The Rabbeinu Shalom wants us home just like a father wants his child home. Where are you? Ayeka, I want you home. Rabbeinu Shalom, today we say to you, we want the Beis HaMikdash. Why? Because we want to hug you, we want that relationship, we want that geschmack. It's so hard for us. Rabbeinu Shalom, what do you want from us? We're living in a hest upon him, everything's so concealed. We don't see Hashem, we don't see anything. People are going through struggles and pain. They've lost family members. People are going through health issues. People can't find shidduchim. People can't have children. People are having problems with their children. People are having problems with parnasa. They can't put bread on the table. There are tzoros and tzoros and tzoros. The list goes on. Rabbeinu Shalom, I get the message. I get what you're trying to show me. Today, Rabbi Isai, we sit on the floor, not just to think about the structure, but rather to think about what it represented, which was our relationship with Hashem, that we're so desperate to have once again. Rabbi Chaim Friedlander says, you know, we all get inspired, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, wow, what an inspiration. I davened well, I did tshuva, I felt I did something. Comes to a Tisha B'Av, when's it over? What time does the fast go out? When can I eat? I'll make Havdalah this year. When can I eat? Rabbi Chaim Friedlander Zatzal said, and I quote you the Lashon, Loi pachos u'masha adam mesugol le'is'alos b'yom HaKippurim. Tishah B'Av is a day that a person can accomplish no less than a Yom HaKippurim, if we take the opportunity, if we take the time to do that. If only we could take 1 minute, just 1 minute, 60 seconds, close our eyes at some point during Tishah B'Av, tonight when you come home, in your bed, tomorrow morning during the kinnis, whatever it is. Say, Rabbeinu Shalom, I get it, I'm so far. I want to come closer. I want that relationship. Then we've had a good Tisha B'Av. Then Be'ez Hashem next year we won't be here. We're missing something. We're missing something. We have to recognize what we're missing. Just a few months ago, one of my Talmidim got married in Eretz Yisrael. It's a beautiful simcha. A Talmud I'm very close to, that has done incredibly well, steiged unbelievably, changed his life completely. I made the shidduch as well. It was a double simcha for me. It was exciting to go to the chasana. I did something unusual, something I'd never done before. I walked him down the aisle. I walked him down to his chuppah. But let me just tell you, Baruch Hashem, his parents are well, his parents are healthy. They couldn't make it in. They couldn't make it to Eretz Yisrael. The war had just started. There were no flights. They were stuck in America. We decided we're continuing with the wedding. We made the wedding. We missed his parents. They were on video call. They saw it, of course. But when I walked down that Talmud, who was not my own personal biological child, down to the chuppah, I was thinking, it's a beautiful wedding. The hall is gorgeous. The music, the food is that we're going to eat is all set up beautifully. Everything's great. But we're missing something. We're missing the parents. They're alive. They're well and healthy. They could have come. But whatever reason, the Rebbeinu Shalom decided not. When you have a wedding where you're missing the parents that are alive, who could be there, that are not there, there's something missing with the wedding. Rabbi say, we have a world. We have a beautiful world. And we sometimes go through the world like that wedding, everything's great, the food is great, the vacation is going to be good, my school, my children, my parnasa, everything's great. Rabbi say, we're missing something. There's something missing. And that's the Rabbeinu Shalom. As the pasuk in Eicha that we just said, Kol roitfeha hisigua bein hamitzarim. Pashup Pshat means in that pasuk, when Klal Yisrael, at the end of the day, people try to harm them, they'll always manage to find people to save them. Reb Tzadok HaKohen writes, and he quotes the Maggid of Mezrich, Kol roitfeha yud hey at the end, separate it. Anyone kol roitfeh ka, anyone who runs after Rabbeinu Shalom, hisiguha will find him. That means the 3 weeks, the 9 days, and now the climax, Tishah B'Av, is the day that we can find the Rabbeinu Shalom greater than any other day of the year. The Rabbeinu Shalom is waiting to call us home. He wants us to come back. He wants us to come back to his home. The Rabbeinu Shalom wants your tefillahs. He wants your tehillim. He wants your chesed. He wants your Torah. He wants your tefillin, your negavasa, your birchas hamazon, your tzitzis. He wants it all. But he also wants you to come home. And he wants you to recognize that when you sit on the floor tonight and you sit on the floor tomorrow morning, don't just say the kinnis. Don't just go through the motions. Let's stop and think, what are we missing? And if we do that, and Be'ez Hashem, if we do that, and the Rabbeinu Shalom sees how much we really want to come home, how much we want him, how much we want his relationship, we want to have the kesher, we want to have the connection. We're mourning today that which we don't have, and we feel it, we recognize it. Then Be'ezus Hashem, it won't be long. It won't be long. But every single one of us will be able to come back to Avinu Shebashamayim, to our Father in heaven. We're all going to make it back home. Be'ezus Hashem, in Yerushalayim, the Bayis Shlishi, the third Beis Hamikdash, B'mheira v'yameinu amen.